Welcome to a video where I can help you figure out if you need a game in 10 minutes or less or your money back. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. My name is miahtheking, and I haven't spoken to my wife in 4 years. I thought it would be rude to interrupt her. Now then, thanks so much for clicking on this video. Today we're taking a look at a game just released on Steam called Misery, a post-apocalyptic survival simulation sort of game, developed by Platypus Entertainment and published by Ytopia, released not in early access and selling for $10. So, what even is this game anyway? Well, it's kind of interesting. Basically, the game starts out like 60 seconds, where you've got 60 seconds to loot stuff out of your house before the bombs drop. Once that happens, welcome to your new life. A life after the bombs dropped and the world has ended. You survived in your bunker and now your new home. Get to scavenging while also trying to maintain your sanity, and that's about it. It doesn't really have any story, plot, characters, writing, or anything else. So let's just get into it. As always, we'll go into the good first and then the bad, shall we? So, the first good and the first thing that I'd really like to talk about is the gameplay, since it's probably the most important feature and what you're most interested in. And I've got good and bad to say about it, but first off, I will say that the gameplay is actually kinda legit. For instance, the game has in-depth mechanics and features meant to simulate real life as best as possible in a video game. You need to grill to cook food, you need coal, and you need to wait for it to grill. You need to fill your generator with fuel so that your furnace can work and recycle materials, which you then need to put into your workbench inventory and able to craft. You can hook up electrical devices using wires and stuff. Like, we've seen this in games before. Watching your character rip pieces off a loaf of bread before eating it, or removing the cap off a jar of pickles before eating. Even having to load bullets into a magazine before being able to reload the gun. The game does a great job of creating immersion and how realistic some of its gameplay components are, but the gist of the gameplay is basically this. The only safe place for you is your bunker. You can leave your bunker to go on expeditions, which are procedurally generated after each emission. What's that? Well, basically, after an unknown amount of time, these alarms go off, and you need to get back inside your bunker before those alarms stop, or else. After this emission, explosion, whatever it is, after that happens, when you leave for a new expedition, it's a new map to explore with new loot, enemies, and anomalies. What's the deal with the anomalies? I have no idea. They just do damage to you as far as I know. Anyway, so the gameplay. Go out, search, and loot, bring back what you can home without dying, and improve your life at home while grabbing what you can to help your future expeditions. This game is a 1 to 5 player co-op PvE game with absolutely no PvP. It's weird that it's 1 to 5. It's typically 1 to 4, 1 to 6, typically even number, so that's a little bit weird, but okay. No player versus player. If you die, you can head back out and recover your body. You can also do this any number of times without limitation, as your body just doesn't seem to disappear ever. So even if you run out there 50 times and die, your body with your original death inventory will still be waiting for you. Overall, the game is fairly interesting with a great idea for survival simulation, but it doesn't really have anything else, and that's probably the problem with it. There is a hub of vendors that you can visit to purchase or sell stuff, but otherwise, what you're watching, this is just it. This is all there is for gameplay. You can build on your land and farm, hook up technology and stuff, and for the survival aspects, there's a decent amount of content, but overall, it doesn't really have anything else in it or going for it. It's just what you'll be watching in this video over and over again. I personally don't really mind it that much, but others might mind the lack of anything pulling you in other than its survival aspects. Next up for the positives is the price tag, the user interface, and the tutorial. The tutorial is really good. It's done at your pace, step by step, while also being fairly straightforward and simple to understand. Took like 10 minutes and helped me pretty much figure out whatever I needed to know, and helped me figure out how the game works so that when I actually got into the game, it was easier for me to understand and do stuff. The user interface is just as grungy as the rest of the gameplay, but for the most part it works and it's easy enough to understand, though it could be better in my opinion. And the price tag, well, let's just say it's appropriately priced. That's all I'll say about that. I liked the idea of the game. It's not really original or anything, but it's not bad either. I especially like how similar to Lethal Company it feels, and how it's almost an extraction shooter but without the PvP, so I did kind of like the overall flow of the game. Unfortunately, that's all I really got to say positively about the game, and now we need to move on to the negatives. But before that, please consider supporting the growth of my channel, liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing the video, as well as hitting that notification button. Like, all of these things really help me out a lot more than you might think, but that last one actually helps you out, which is pretty much the entire point of my channel, so make sure you don't forget to do that, alright? Okay, so now on to the negatives. The obvious first glaring negative is the graphics, but I will say, despite it looking like poopy, it still manages to give you just enough detail to be able to see what it is you're messing with. And in a weird kind of way, with the world that you're in, it also kind of works. My wife actually hated the graphics, but it's fine because in our opinion, graphics don't make the game. I mean, if it looks great, then that's just a bonus, but regardless, I still think it looks super ugly. Next is the sound design. The music is forgettable, the sound effects are pathetic, and there's only partial voice acting in a foreign language from a random NPC you come into contact with. Overall, the sound design was just incredibly disheartening and awful, if it was even there. My wife had several moments where there was just no sound at all for what she was doing, and even if you were able to get sound, it was some of the most pathetic sound effects I've ever heard. So the sound design in this whole game is just awful. Next for the the negatives, is the overall lack of anything written. There's almost nothing here. There's no plot, there's no story, there's no quest, there's no dialogue, there's legit nothing to read here other than the descriptors. It just feels super lazy to me. The only plot you get is literally from the Steam store page, because there's nothing in the game, and that's a little depressing. It also means that eventually the game is just going to stop being fun for you, and you're never going to return to it, because normally, when there's some kind of plot or survival element or story or something, there's different ways to go about doing it, or something engaging enough that makes you want to return to it later. My wife and I have gone through and played Raft like 3 times because the story was engaging and the world was engaging, despite it being the same basic survival game over and over again. But in a game like this that has absolutely no direction, no goal, no plot or anything, it's pretty much play until you've got everything in the game in your bunker, and your bunker is set up like a home, and you've got defenses and all this other stuff built and everything. And once you've got all that done, you're just done. And you'll never really need to come back to it either. And so that's kind of the issue here. And last but not least for the negatives about the game is the stability. I mean, the game is kind of broken. And when I say kind of broken, I mean really broken. Now, it ran smoothly for the most part. Like, it never froze on us or dropped frames or crashed or anything. And even our online connectivity was rather smooth without lag or disconnects. However, what the hell is this? What is happening to me right now? I have absolutely no idea what is going on, but what you're currently watching right now is my guy just walking out of the tunnel, which is the entrance exit of our home. Like, this is the beginning of the level. We exit here. This is our home, basically the door, right? I'm walking out of the tunnel and I'm just being launched into the air and dying. I can only assume this is a bug in the game. And guess what? It keeps happening. I keep spawning, leaving home, running outside to try to get to my original body. I'll get flung up into the air and die as I land. I tried not sprinting. I tried walking. I tried crouching. I tried to go in a different direction. None of it works. None of it mattered as it continued to throw me up, and then I continued to come crashing down and dying. This is super bullshit. I was eventually able to get around this by super healing my guy, and then I just tanked the damage, but it was still bullshit. Oh, and it ended up happening later to my wife as well, and she's a lot less patient than I am. Along with that, the game has issues with its inventory management. It's not smooth at all. Sometimes items can be swapped and other times they can't. Sometimes you can equip something and sometimes you can't. My wife died to a boar because the game wasn't letting her equip her weapon. Like, she had it equipped, like it was on her toolbar and it was on her inventory, like in her equipment screen. She was hitting the designated button on her toolbar and it still was not allowing her to wield her weapon, and she died. Little mechanical glitches like this were happening everywhere so frequently that we just shrugged and said, look, it's just an early access game. I'm sure they'll fix that later. Only to then later realize that it wasn't early access, which then we were justifiably upset. So be forewarned that if you play this game, you're going to run into a lot of bugs and glitches, as well as mechanical bugs and glitches with the inventory and item system. And I guess the last thing I want to make mention of is the lack of plot. Now, I know I said the stability was the last negative, but this is kind of on a more different note. I don't understand what the main goal of the game is meant to be. Is it just to survive? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not entirely against the idea, but I'd like it if there was at least some kind of overall goal we had to progress towards. I don't know, maybe that's just me, and I briefly explained why I think that is earlier. But, okay, so that's all I got to say negatively about the game, and now on to my final thoughts. And honestly, I mean, the idea is good, the gameplay is more good than bad, and it is kind of addicting, which is good. It has some decent player retention, because overall, I find myself wanting to dive back in so I can explore more of the gameplay and the content. Plus, it was only $10, so it's not like I'm putting myself into debt by keeping it. The game has its issues, and here's the thing. This is one of those rare instances where if this game had actually been in early access, I would have given it a more positive review, honestly. But knowing that it's fully released kind of takes my hopes and dashes them. Like, the odds of this game getting more content, updates, or anything else are very low in circumstances like these, and I'm not exactly hopeful that they're going to fix anything that's wrong with the game. But do I think it's a bad game? Not particularly, I guess. I mean, it's not great or anything, but it's not a must-buy. It's fun enough and engaging enough that I think for you to play around with, and if with some friends, you know, and cheap enough to not worry about breaking the bank by taking that chance. It's definitely something that with more friends to screw around on, it'd be more fun. So, I don't know, overall, I think it's a perfectly average game in this genre. It doesn't do anything new or innovative, but it's not exactly harmful either. Honestly, at this point, I think it's just more of a personal preference thing. If you just want a survival game you can screw around with some friends, then hey, this is as good as any in terms of, you know, survival games similar to that. Just know exactly what it is you're getting into. You know, no story, no plot, no real progression other than your base, and it's just kind of the same thing over and over again, which will get boring after a while. But it doesn't mean that it's doing that all that badly either, because it does do a great job of simulating surviving a nuclear winter thing pretty well in terms of its gameplay and overall helpless feeling you get while playing. So it's honestly just up to you guys out there. Do I recommend it? I think if you're looking for a more challenging survival game with friends, then yeah, it's not that bad, I guess. But if you were hoping for something bigger and more awesome, then it might not be for you, as it just doesn't offer anything that new or different from the genre. In other words, this is entirely up to y'all. I personally, I'm going to keep playing it, and I hope that I can actually find some more enjoyment from it, and maybe that's a good sign, you know, that I want to go back in and see what else is there. I mean, it's more than Vampire the Masquerade was able to do, so yeah, that's going to be it for this video, everybody. Thanks so much for watching, with a special thanks to those of you who stuck around to the end. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.